I was adopted as an infant, and my birth mom got custody of me when I was 16. Yes, it was a legal adoption in 1987, and yes, she completely signed her rights away. I lived with my adopted parents from the time I left the hospital until I was 16. I met my birth mom when I was 14 years old, and she showed up at my high school without my parents' permission. And for 2 years, my parents didn't really want me to have any contact with her, so they limited it as much as they possibly could, even though she wasn't dangerous. My parents only wanted me talking to her every Sunday for 15 minutes with my dad on the other line listening in on the phone, but I was going to school every single day and calling her from a payphone with my lunch money. And then one day, I decided that I was going to go sneak out to see her. And I got caught. This sparked a huge lawsuit where my parents actually tried to file a restraining order as well as get a kidnapping charge on her, and that didn't work out for them. When I found out that my parents were trying to sue her, I got really mad, and I actually hired my own attorney when I was 16. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but it really did happen. And when we went to court, I asked the judge to place me with my birth mom, and she did. I had really good adopted parents. They were amazing people. They're still amazing people. My dad is my best friend in the entire world. But there's something about lying to your child. See, what they had done is after I had been adopted, it was supposed to be an open adoption. That was actually the agreement that they had with my birth family. And as soon as the adoption paperwork was filed, they completely cut it off. They would send sometimes yearly updates, letters, phone calls, things like that. But every single time that my birth family would send any type of gift for me, birthday, Christmas, whatever, they would never give them to me. And this made me feel like I was unwanted, abandoned, and that they had just forgotten about me altogether. And when I was 14 and my birth mom showed up at my high school, she brought with her a bag full of all of the letter communication she had with my parents, as well as photos of all of the gifts that she had ever sent to me. I felt so incredibly betrayed and lied to because I had been asking questions and my parents were telling me they didn't have any answers. And she had been asking about me, wondering if I wanted anything to do with her or if I had asked any questions about her, and they were telling her no. Now, I understand why they did this, and before you say that they were trying to protect me, let's really dive into why they were doing it. Because there was nothing to protect me from. She was not a dangerous person. She didn't have a criminal background. She didn't have any addiction. And not only that, but my adopted parents had basically sold her on choosing them as the adopted parents by using the fact that she would always be in my life. I would have 2 mommies and 2 daddies. She would be there to hear me talk and watch me walk. But they were so in love with this little baby that they had gotten that they didn't want anyone or anything coming in between them and the relationship that they had with me. Unfortunately, all that did was make me want her that much more in my life, because you always want what you cannot have. I had struggled for so many years growing up, wondering who I looked like, where I came from, what my story was, and the only information that I was ever given was that my parents were young and I was given my birth mom's first name. I was always shamed for asking questions and made to feel really bad and really awkward. Like my parents were almost asking, "What, are we not good enough?" Now, I couldn't articulate this when I was young, but I can now as an adult. So if I could have said anything to my adopted parents back then that would have hopefully opened their mind to what was really best for me, I would have told them, just like I can have 2 children that I love equally but differently, I can have 2 moms and 2 dads that I love equally and differently. Birth parents and adopted parents are not in competition with each other. There is nothing that makes one better than the other unless there was some type of abuse involved. And it should not be a problem for an adopted child to desire to have any type of relationship or knowledge about their birth family. But unfortunately, a lot of times adopted parents feel super threatened by birth families. And it really shouldn't be a thing, because all you're doing is you're putting that child in a very awkward position, and that's not fair to the child who has already experienced the trauma of adoption. And when we as adoptees say that adoption is trauma, that should not trigger you, because it's a fact, not an opinion. It doesn't mean that you as an adopted parent did a bad job. It doesn't mean that you are not our parents. But what you have to take into consideration is that they are our parents too, and they have a place in our life too. And their place in our life does not and should not threaten you. Because if you are confident enough in the way that you have loved your child, then there is nobody and nothing that is going to come between that. And nobody can have too many people that love them. I can love my adopted parents and my birth parents the same, equally, but differently. And my birth mom will never be my adopted mom, and my adopted mom will never be my birth mom. The biggest advice that I have for any and all adopted parents out there is if the birth family is willing and able and not dangerous to the child, to open up your lives and your hearts to them, because that is what's in the best interest of the child. And this is not an opinion, this is based off of research studies, as well as my own life experience. I would have never gone to live with her and pushed myself as far away from my parents as I did if they would have just allowed me to have something to do with her and would not have lied to me. And even as a 37-year-old woman, I still deal with part of the ramifications of this entire thing of being adopted, because I can't call my mom in front of my mom without somebody getting jealous. And it honestly should never get like that. And every time that I'm with any of my friends and one of my friends makes the comment, "Your mom," talking about my other mom in front of my mom, it's instant awkwardness. And it definitely should not be like that. I have 2 children that are not biologically mine that call me mom, so I understand the feeling of wanting to protect that child. But there is a difference between protection and control. And more often than not, adoptive parents act out of insecurities, fear, and control. And lots of times, they don't even realize that they're doing it. I would have been much better off with my birth family in my life the entire time growing up. And instead, I had my birth mom show up at 14 years old, and I put her on a pedestal because I had never known anything about her, and I worshiped the ground that she walked on. If she would have been in my life from the start, she would have just been another person, another auntie, another friend. But instead, she was this mystical creature, somebody I had dreamed of, because adoptees have to fill in their own blanks when they're not given information. So we fantasize, we use our own imagination to make up all of these things about our birth parents. And unfortunately, when we are left to do that, oftentimes we get disappointed. And many adopted parents try to shield their child from knowing any truths about their birth families because the truths aren't that great. But this sets adoptees up for failure. And once again, we are left up to our own imaginations. And why wouldn't we think that this mystical, magical person isn't a good person? And if we are made to wait until we are older, such as 18 years old, by the time we have reached 18 years, we have fantasized so much and created this entire character in our minds that doesn't even exist sometimes. And if we are told things like, they loved you so much that they gave you up for adoption, now we believe that this person loved us, when sometimes, unfortunately, that's not the truth. So it's always best to be honest in an age-appropriate way, and if possible, have the birth parents involved. You will thank me later.